Margot Robbie wants a vampire project? I think we can help her out with that. Welcome to Vampire Pitches, where we pitch vampire movies and streaming shows that don't actually exist. And to help me do that, I've gathered together a group of friends from across the entertainment industry, all of whom I would like to introduce you to now.
Hi, my name is James Parris. I am a writer, director, animation, VFX, multi-hyphenate, weirdo nerd, and I'm currently working as an animation director over at DreamWorks TV Animation.
All right. Next up, Tiffany.
Hi, I'm Tiffany. I'm a visualization artist. I work at the third floor with our wonderful host, Sean. Yeah, that's me.
Excellent. Lauren?
Hi, I'm Lauren. As he just said, I don't know why I felt compelled to say that. I'm a writer and also a production coordinator and manager at the third floor as well.
Excellent. And Dan?
I'm Daniel Thron. I'm a writer, director, all sorts of other multi-hyphenate stuff to borrow from James. But I pay the rent with production design, matte painting, and storyboarding.
All right. Excellent. So those are our pitchers for today. And our topic for pitching today is Margot Robbie wants a vampire project. So what does that mean exactly? It's a hypothetical situation where you happen to hear from somebody in the industry that Margot Robbie is looking for a vampire project. And so each of our pitchers is going to pitch what they would do in that situation. I would like to state really quickly that no one has actually asked for this. So this is not a project that is currently in development or anything like that. This is more just sort of a fun academic exercise to do with friends in sort of a what-if world. So the way that we'll do this is it'll be 2 to 5 minutes per person as they pitch their idea, and then we'll discuss a little bit as though we were studio executives, and then we'll move on to the next person. James, do you mind if we start with you?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Sacrificial Lamb is my middle name. Take one for the team. Sure. Okay. So, like the term character driven, gets abused a lot in my opinion, because isn't everything, but I'm going to avoid that term. But I'd like to preface by saying, even though my background is visual effects and everything, if we were attaching Margot to a project of mine, I would take advantage of that and actually concentrate on something that would give us a memorable performance as opposed to a ton of VFX. So you guys want to hear a vampire drama?
Hell yeah.
Okay, so the year is 2005, and there's a little black boy at a funeral. This is Jonah. Jonah's 10 years old, and he lives with his mother in a poor neighborhood in Atlanta. Gang violence, police brutality, you get the idea. But right now, Jonah's just staring at the closed casket of his father. And the church choir is behind him singing a song called Power in the Blood. And no one speaks about how his father died, but everybody keeps telling Jonah the same thing. You're the man of the house now. You got to look after your mama. You're the man of the house. And Jonah takes this very seriously. He's overachieving for a 10-year-old. He's really the little man of the house, But one night, Jonah wakes up to hear his mother screaming. She's being attacked by something that looks human, but it's moving way too fast to be human. And it's killing his mother, and it's sucking the blood from her neck. And Jonah gets a split second to see its face. It's a woman. And by some miracle or sheer luck, Jonah escapes with his life. The cops never find his mother's body. Needless to say, Jonah is haunted. A real man of the house would have protected his family. His father would have protected his family. Fast forward, Jonah is 25 now. He's a very attractive young man. He's still in Atlanta, scraping around for gigs. One night, he gets a catering gig at this upscale penthouse, serving crab cakes to rich people, the deal. And he sees the monster. She's standing right there. She's wearing an evening dress, and she's making small talk with Melinda Gates. She has not aged a day, but he knows that's her. Jonah has a full-on panic attack. He ditches the gig. He walks the streets of Atlanta. He's just trying to get his mind right. He passes by a little bar. Someone's playing James Brown. The Big Payback, song about revenge. That's the song he needs to hear tonight. Song about revenge. And revenge starts with homework. Know thine enemy. And Jonah's enemy has a name, Iris. And Iris is not just wealthy. Iris's husband is like one of the wealthiest men on the planet. Think Jeff Bezos, but even stranger looking. And he's always flying around the world making deals and stuff, so he's never home. One night, Jonah's like, I'm going to sneak into this high-rise. Gets caught. 6 guns pointed right at him. He drops to his knees as Iris walks out, and he offers himself body and soul as a familiar. Iris is impressed. Like, this dude's risking his life to be my slave? You know, maybe it's loneliness, maybe it's curiosity, but Iris says yes. And now when a vampire takes a familiar, these are my rules, a ring must be given for the familiar to wear it. Like, it's a magical, mystical thing, bonds the familiar to the vampire's household. All vampires do it. But in this particular case, when Iris puts the ring on Jonah, it strangely feels like a wedding for some reason. And so now Jonah begins his new life as a familiar to the vampire who killed his mom. And he's going to get his revenge when the time is right, though. But the more time Jonah spends with his new master, we're in Act 2, she becomes more human. She's interesting, funny, philanthropic. She's not acting like a monster. And one night, she even puts a beat down on some racist cops to save Jonah's life. And it's in this moment, after the selfless act, Iris reveals her most painful memory. The night when vampire Jeff Bezos took her by force, robbed her of her humanity, turned her into this blood-sucking animal, and led her straight to her first kill. And in fact, he handpicked the house because he had already killed the father, and he knew the mother and kid would be defenseless. Iris breaks down and she's crying because freshly turned vampires are at their most animalistic. They have no self-control on the first night. And she doesn't realize she's confessing to the murder of Jonah's mother. Well, on that night, Jonah and Iris were both turned against their will into something they never wanted to become. This is the perfect moment for Jonah to get his revenge. But now he's got all these other messy feelings going on, and just when you thought it couldn't get any messier, vampire Jeff Bezos is back from his business trip earlier than expected. And vampire Bezos wants to know why the hell his trophy wife has taken in this attractive young black familiar without telling him about it. So this is a dangerous situation. Even if there were no vampires, this would be a dangerous situation. You know, I'm just a familiar. So Iris quietly takes the ring off of Jonah's finger and tells him to get the hell out of here because, well, maybe she loves him. And of course her husband overhears this. And of course it spills into a big fight. And as we all know, vampire couples don't fight like normal couples. Jonah tries to be a hero, but like an idiot, because he's an idiot. Vampire Bezos just completely mauls him like a bear. Jonah's lying on the floor, ripped up, bloody, gasping his last breath. And that's when Iris does it. She sinks her teeth into him and turns Jonah to save his life. And it leads up to what we all wanted from this movie anyway. Vampire lovers teaming up in a fight to death against the big boss. Think like the Raid Redemption final fight, but without all the pretty martial arts. Or better yet, imagine if you threw like 2 feral cats into a closet with a rabid dog and some cocaine and shut the door. And so Iris and Jonah are nowhere near as powerful as her husband, but they make up for it with like raw emotion, plus all the sexual repression they got pent up, and somehow they're just in sync. They don't even need the ring to be connected. And add to that, since this is Jonah's first night as a vampire, he's freshly turned, he's ferocious, animalistic, and at the climax of this hardcore battle, they kill vampire Bezos. It's not the ideal happy ending, though, because Iris can't bring back Jonah's mother. She can't unturn him. She can't reverse all the terrible things she's done. But maybe they can find a way to help each other cope. After all, they got time now, and she is a billionaire. So in the end, Jonah does become the man of the house, just not the way he planned. And this is a low to medium budget drama called Familiar Ring, about an unexpected romance that develops when a man seeks revenge on a beautiful vampire, starring Margot Robbie as Iris, and as vampire Jeff Bezos, returning my favorite vampire of all time to the screen, Kiefer Sutherland. The end.
Save that's the last on that one. That was good.
And there you go.
That is fantastic.
I really have to. I mean, Familiar Ring is a terrific title, but if you don't go with that, Raid 3 Resurrection Vampire Jeff Bezos is like that's the obvious choice to me.
It's clearly. That is what
click through is important.
Yes,
I think that would do it.
You had me at vampire Jeff Bezos. I was like, that was quite the twist. At first with the funeral too, I was like, oh no, where's this going? But then it kind of, it's a drama, but it has a little bit of like romance in there, and Like it feels almost like I could see this on like Netflix, like the Netflix kind of like Halloween movies.
Yeah, I really, I dig all of the, making up your own sort of rules for the mythology and stuff like that. And I love the familiar, the ring for the familiar, and just offering up like, oh, make me your familiar, as a way to keep from getting killed in the moment when you have completely botched your entire plan. That's a really clever sort of Hail Mary moment. And I was worried for the first half of the pitch, because I was like, man, this is rough. Like, Margot Robbie's character like killed his mom, and he's trying to send, and then her guards catch him and everything like that. And then, so that twist, that wonderful twist of the fact that was her first night as a vampire, and Kiefer Sutherland had, picked the house for her and everything like that, Kiefer Bezos. And so that was really a lot of fun. It was a great turn that just it immediately bought me pathos for the person who I was hating up until that point. So yeah, that's great.
I like trying to find ways to like your villain and, reverse Walter White it.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Anybody else have anything they would like to say? Any questions to ask at all?
Tiffany, you got something? I have thoughts.
No, I mean, I agree with Lauren. It's Lauren and Sean. It's very fun when you get to the point of being like, he's gonna do it. He's been training. Like, he's got all the shit together. He's about to go just kamikaze this girl, and then switches on a dime. I think that was really fun.
Yeah. Well, it has for me, it had like a real satisfying sort of Marvel team up flavor. Like it's like, like one of my favorite, this is a purely 90s style movie. It's not a 90s movie, but Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie and Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Mrs. and Mrs. Smith
is like unbelievably fun to me. And like, that's like the payoff just keeps on coming. The more in sync they get, like the more exciting the movie becomes. And what's really good with the big dramatic setup is that the heavy drama of that then both infuses, like it gives weight to the action, and the action then sort of is the explanation of the backstory. So you never get lost in like the big backstory download. Like, you're in the middle of the fight and you are coming to understand what's happening because of what is literally happening. And that's a much more effective way to deliver that kind of so like all the cool backstory is great, but if it's like all front loaded, it's a drag. And I think you really smartly like hook me big emotional style. So like, I want to know what's going on. And then it's moving so fast by that point that like I have to hang on for my life. Like, that's the way to roll.
Oh, thank you. I actually started the idea with reversing it, and you were following her character being turned and then doing all the stuff. And then I made it, like you were saying, it made me feel like I'm just giving you all the vampire history up front, and you're like, yeah, we know vampires get turned. Instead, I just like, why don't we start with the victim instead?
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Good call.
And Kiefer Sutherland, A+.
Oh, yeah, I know this was a pitch for Margot Robbie, but I totally turned it for Kiefer Sutherland.
It's a comeback tour.
Because come on, Lost Boys.
Fantastic, yeah.
Yes. I just watched Lost Boys again 2 days ago, and it's still, he's the man.
Gold.
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, that was certainly a fine hour for Kiefer.
No, man.
Let's move on to Tiffany next, and just James, you did an excellent pitch. That was fantastic. If any of the rest of my pitchers are worried about, oh my God, do I have to go through the entire plot of my movie right now? You don't have to. James, that was great. You made it work. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. If you want to, feel free. So there we go.
I appreciate
Tiffany, the floor is yours.
that. I appreciate Sean caveating that, because I have done no plot work.
Yeah. You and me both.
In almost every single way, the exact opposite of what your pitch was.
Awesome.
It's going to be a hard 180, but it's going to be fun, because my idea for this was a hangover bridesmaid style comedy shot in the style of What We Do in the Shadows. So like, so documentary, and just like the chaos that ensues when a group of early 20-year-old girls from a small Idaho town decide to hit Vegas when the youngest of their group turns 21. And they want to throw her a huge birthday bash weekend, and all of their personalities are going to clash because they're strong. They're all strong-willed. They're all like hard-headed, and unbeknownst to some of the girls, the birthday girl is friends with a pair of vampire sisters, and she's invited them to Vegas because that's the one city you can really party in if you're a vampire, because everything. So the main work that I did for my pitch was figuring out, like, who are these girls? So we have a group of 6 girls, 6 main characters, and they all live in this small town. They're all 21, 22-ish. And the main character is this girl named Shelly. She is like the newest girl to town. She moved into town when she was in high school, when they were all in high school, and kind of became friends with this other girl named Veronica. We'll get into her later. But Shelly is, she's like a classic beauty. She's very calm, and she's from another city, and she had like this air of like interest to her because she's like not from the small town. And the thing that's most interesting about her is that she's very self-assured. She's very self-aware. She knows what she wants in life. And so she is sort of on board with this Vegas party. More than anything, she's happy to have like a weekend with her friends, but the real engineer to this party is sort of the alpha of the group, this girl named Veronica. She's a human, and she does know about vampires, and honestly, if she knew about vampires, she really wouldn't care because like it has nothing to do with her. The thing about Veronica is that she's got like big personality, big hair. She looks bold. She's that gorgeous, like eye-turning showstopper person when you walk down the street. And she is insecure because she's only from this small town and she wants to prove she can make it in the big city. So part of her motivation for getting her group of friends to go to Vegas is that she wants to prove to everyone that like she can hit it in the big town, and that she can turn someone's eye in Vegas and like they'll be like, stay with me, I'm gonna make you into a movie star, that kind of girl. But at the end of the day, she is also the most headstrong. So she's the one who's wanting to do all of the parties. She's the one who wants to go to the pool. She's the one who wants to go to the club. She's the one who wants to experience every bit of Vegas, whereas some of the other girls are a little less interested. The other 2 girls in Veronica's posse, pre-Shelly, are Kirsten and Aria. And Kirsten is sort of Veronica's opposite. She is a little bit more quiet, and she likes to watch things. So she is more worldly in that she knows that like their town in Idaho isn't all there is. Veronica kind of thinks she's the big fish in the only pond, but Kirsten is like, there's more to the world. Maybe I should like get out there and see it. But her and Veronica have been friends since they were like real little, and Kirsten's a little worried about what happens if she tries to leave town, and like what's going to happen with her friendship with Veronica. Is she going to feel betrayed? Is she going to feel lonely and abandoned? Who knows? Maybe that'll come out during the movie. And the last girl from Veronica's original posse is a girl named Aria, and Aria is like Shelly. She moved into town relatively recently, beginning of high school. Shelly was middle of high school. Aria is really well traveled, and she's also like Veronica, like gorgeous. And so everything about Aria is what Veronica wishes she was, because she's not only beautiful and smart and all these things, but she's also well traveled, and she's like proven herself to the world. And so Veronica wants really badly to be as cool as she thinks Aria is. So bringing Aria to Vegas is a little bit of a, I can hang with you. Aria is also sort of the most secretive and mysterious of the group, which we will find out more about in the movie. And she's never truly opened up to Shelly, or so Shelly thinks. Finally, the 2 vampire friends that Shelly has brought along, unbeknownst to the rest of her friends, are 2 vampires named Katya and Elizabeth. And respectively, Katya is from the 1600s and Elizabeth is from like the 1960s, early 1950s. And in their own ways, they're sort of women out of time. who have adapted, like that's what you do when you're a vampire who's lived for that long. They figure out ways to shuffle into society. But every now and then, like in the case of Katya, she can drink anyone under the table because she was originally Russian. And so she'll start drinking people under the table, and then she'll just like adopt her Russian accent, and she'll start speaking Russian, and she'll just start doing all of the Russian things from the 1600s. So it's not even like modern Russian. It's just why are you hiding your ankles? No one knows. Elizabeth from the 1960s, she is a much younger vampire, so she is still trying to figure out her way in the world, having Katya as sort of her mentor, because Katya is older and been around longer. And Elizabeth, at this point in her vampire life, has decided, every time we go to a new town, I'm going to pretend to be a different person. I'm going to discover new parts of my personality. And so she has decided that she is this like quirky fashionista girl, but to Shelley, when they're in private, and to Katya, she's like, I'm really, really just tired of this, and I really just want to be myself for a little bit again. And that's just her motivation to sort of get away from the group at all times, even though, you're in Vegas and you really don't ever leave your friends in Vegas. That's what I've learned from my trips in Vegas. Obviously, with a hangover bridesmaid style story, there's going to be plenty of offshoots of girls running off, doing things. My final big pitch to this was, this is the motley crew that hits the Vegas Strip in the glittering cover of darkness. Drama will unfold. Secrets will be uncovered. An underground vampire clan rivalry will be anything can happen. Revelations, hilarity. The only thing we know for sure is that Vegas will never be the same.
That is awesome.
Awesome.
Well done. Where do you see Margot Robbie fitting into this cast?
So, I forgot. I mentioned, I did the little teaser of what Arya is being really secretive and stuff. Arya, I mentioned that there's a vampire clan rivalry, and so Katya and Elizabeth are part of one clan, and then actually Arya is also a vampire, but the other girls don't know it. None of the other girls know it. But I actually imagine Arya as, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting her name from The Boys. Karen. She plays...
Stormfront?
No, she plays the...
Starlight?
The girl.
Starlight, yep.
Starlight.
No, not Starlight.
Oh,
No,
the feral girl
She plays Kimiko. She plays
yeah.
Okay.
Because I've watched some of the behind the scenes of The Boys, and she is just like outright hilarious. And I was like, this is her. Like, let the girl talk. She can definitely go off on hilarity, trying to pretend not to be a vampire. But that's beside the point. But what I actually imagined for Margot Robbie would be either... I went at it from the idea of like Birds of Prey, where it's like an ensemble, all-female cast of like just personalities going at each other. And like I was trying to decide whether or not Margot Robbie would be Veronica or Kirsten. And like I do feel a little bit like Veronica is like an obvious choice, and it might be kind of interesting to have her play the character of Kirsten, who has to be a little bit shyer, just because it's just like something that she hasn't done as much recently. And so it'd be kind of fun to see like this actress who we know is like a big, powerful presence, and she has to pretend not to be a powerful presence, but then there will eventually be a Kirsten Veronica headbutting, and like it'll be, I imagine it being incredibly hilarious, because like I'm sure in the background there's like some actual vampire fighting going on, and these two girls have completely ignored it, and they're just having their actual interpersonal drama. And I actually think it'd be really fun if we had Margot Robbie as Kirsten for that reason.
Right. Well, if I can jump in, Sean, I have to say that like I don't think I've heard a more quickly sellable pitch than Bridesmaids with Vampires in my life.
Yeah, you probably. I think you could have already just sold me just with that. I would have like, okay.
Like that's this is one of those ideas. I think you explained it perfectly well, and you wrapped up everything that exactly what I would imagine to be in this movie, plus. But it's the kind of thing that it writes itself so instantaneously in my mind that after this meeting, I'm going to be like, oh my God, I just met this woman who's going to become a millionaire off of a great screenplay. Margot Robbie or no, like immediately tell that to somebody and buy a nice yacht. That's a great idea. Bridesmaids is one of my favorite comedies of all time.
Love Bridesmaids.
Yeah, and it's a great like I think it's an empowering story for anybody who watches it, whether you're a woman or a man. And it's like because like it has a very like the center of that movie is this sort of like there's a moment when the main character like so many bad things have happened to her. And she's on the phone with her mom and she says, "Mom, I think I finally hit bottom." And of course, like she's like a million miles from the bottom. Like it's gonna get so much worse. And like this takes that and then plunges it into the supernatural. Like it's spectacular. Like that's great joy and great character change. And I think that you're right on for casting, like putting Robbie in that position gives her the most room for change as a character, and that's what is going to suck people in. And it gives her like the range of that change means that she can like not only does the sort of the type of interactions and the places in which she is interacting with fit how she is changing and how she is becoming more daring, right? But because she is changing the character, like she is now changing against the people that she already met and knows in the story. So like there's 100 different ways that you can bounce off and replay the same sequences and watch them become different as the movie goes along. It's really, really nicely designed. I think it's great. And it's just like, just say that one sentence: Bridesmaids, vampires, done. Home free.
You know, it's funny, actually, tangenting off that, before you even said Bridesmaids meets Vampires at the end, in my head, as you were going into character descriptions, I was thinking The World's End with women and vampires.
Oh, yeah. Another great one.
Have them bounce off each other the same way Dan was mentioning, for everything Dan just said, I just like, that and even more interpersonal conflict, go.
Yep.
And alcohol. And crazy shit in Vegas and side alleys and whatever.
Yeah. I mean, part of this was definitely conceived while reminiscing lightly on like the weird stuff I've gotten into in Vegas.
Excellent.
Autobiographical there?
Right.
It's Bloomhouse is ready to purchase. Bloomhouse is ready to go. They're like, can someone maybe get murdered at one point, but like as a joke?
Yeah.
Well,
a funny murder. That's all we need.
Someone getting turned during the course of the movie, like accidentally, because probably at some point this rival vampire clan is like trying to figure out something, like someone, and they accidentally get like someone gets kidnapped. I don't know.
Well, you could pull it. What's the Innocent Blood? You can pull
Innocent
one of
Blood. Yeah.
Where you accidentally turn a criminal who turns his boys, and all of a sudden, vampire
Yep.
mafia.
Yep.
I was thinking
Call back
really
to Innocent Blood.
Yep. That's good, bud. Nice.
Sorry, Lauren.
I was gonna say really quickly, when you pitched Aria, I was just thinking, like, because you said she was really well traveled, like she goes to the Venetian and she's like, ugh, this is nothing compared to Italy, like just like making fun of all the stuff around Vegas.
Completely. Oh, it's so kitschy. It's so good.
That's amazing. Okay, well, Tiffany, very well done. Excellent job. I can't wait to visit your yacht.
Yes, remember us.
I'll invite Margot Robbie too. She probably won't have it.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, that would make sense. All right, Lauren, you're up next.
Okay, here we go. My movie is called The Last Bloodline, and it's a movie about a vampire who is a forensic pathologist who returns to her hometown on Halloween to discover the mystery of the murder of the town's blood supplier. So it's kind of like a mix of Knives Out and Nightmare Before Christmas, but without the music. And so the whole idea is that a forensic pathologist is basically a doctor that works in a morgue, and they kind of figure out why someone died. And that is our main character, Scarlett Montgomery. And she was actually born in Night Falls, Washington, which is a little tiny community in the mountains of Washington. And it's really known, for apple picking, huge tourist attraction. However, when night comes and night falls, it closes in this gated community, and they're totally sustainable and have their own blood supply and all that good stuff. But Scarlett was exposed to all these humans, and she's like, humans really aren't that bad. I'm really jealous of them, actually. Like, why are we killing them? Like, they're so amazing. We've seen this growth of them. So she decides that she's going to be on her own, and she's going to go be a doctor, and she goes to Stanford. She's a resident at Columbia University, and she works at Columbia University, and she is so passionate about her job and everything about her job. But anything outside of that, and especially with vampire culture, she hates it. And she's super cynical and sassy. And it's kind of ironic because her dad, Horace Montgomery, is the mayor of the town. And so there's kind of this legacy with Horace, Melinda, her parents, and her two twin younger brothers, James and Anthony. And she's like, but I don't want to be part of that. However, the kicker is that in my vampire world, if anyone is born on Halloween, they are cursed. And if they don't return to their community, they will be killed. And so she has to go back to town on Halloween, and Halloween also is the day where the town was founded. So they have this big festival. So she comes home, she's not happy, and she's like, okay, let's get this done so, I can keep living and go back to the human world. Oh, and I forgot to say that she's a forensic pathologist again, because humane way to get blood. So she goes back to home, and Horace is giving his speech for the big festival. But then we see on stage that Clyde Clybourne, who is the blood's town supplier, has a stake in his heart, and he's dead on stage. And then she goes, okay, well, maybe if I solve this will get my curse broken, and I can be free of vampire world forever.
Right,
The last
right,
bloodline.
Right. Love it.
A vampire murder mystery among vampires.
Yes.
This
is genius.
That's the Knives Out part, right?
Yeah, so I pictured Knives Out, because I like kind of big ensemble pieces, and I think vampire stories really fun with big ensembles.
Right.
And then Nightmare Before Christmas is kind of aesthetic of the town, kind of semi-creepy.
There's a great little part there about the curse on Halloween that reminds me a little bit of what was it? Was it American Horror Story? Was it Freak Show? Where
I didn't see Freak Show. Yeah.
I think there was an undead character that if you did a certain thing on Halloween, that spirit would find you. You're not supposed to do this on Halloween. I don't want to spoil too much just in case.
Was that the clown?
No, that's a murderer. That's a crazy murderer. No, this is this is just a thing that only happens on Halloween, and Jessica Lange has to deal with. Should I do X on Halloween or not? And if I do X, I'm going to have to answer to this problem. You can't do this on Halloween.
Let's not add clowns, because I'm already freaked out. It's gonna get bad.
Well, what if you have to do the thing on Halloween? You got no choice. Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love the titles people are coming up with. I know you personally, Lauren, so I'm already thinking of Halloween Town, which I know is more lighthearted than I think your movie's going for, but I'm definitely thinking within the lines of that type of drama, but more adult, obviously, because Halloween Town is a little bit more for young adults and teenagers and stuff. But I love the title because that's a really good one.
It's a pun.
Yeah. Oh man, I never get enough.
As a pun.
Yeah,
I never get enough of puns.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Yeah, I would want to throw in the only note that I have really is make sure that you also back this up with the streaming series pitch, because the setting is so good. You're gonna want to explore that a lot more. You know, like, because I completely agree with you on the knives out value of it, you know, but because like you have so much sort of juicy material that you deliver these backstories through these weird characters with fun casting and all this kind of stuff, that people are going to see just one of those and they're going to be pissed off if you do not have more episodes. Like, that's too much of a good setup. Like, you have a contained town, lots of awesome characters, and like a really, really unique main character. That you can sell this as a, you know, like Veronica Mars style, you know.
Oh yeah, I was also thinking Veronica Mars-ish.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought of it as a movie, but I think nowadays you're right. Everything's a miniseries.
Yeah, I mean, it started as it's a backdoor pilot.
Backdoor pilot. Yeah, exactly.
Pilot. Yeah.
I was thinking backdoor. I was also thinking Twin Peaks too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, you could Twin Peaks, Knives Out, and a little bit of Slither, and then.
Hey, all right, nice. Nice. That's terrific. Great setup.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And like Dan said, I mean, just the idea of all of this going on in a setting that is like a small town, you know, Washington, during Halloween, with a huge like founders celebration, like Halloween decorations everywhere, and like, you know, it's also apple season, so there's bushels of apples everywhere, and just like, you know, heavy tourism and everything. Like, it seems like a really cool setting that is just like every frame would be rich.
Totally. I mean, I can imagine, and for my part, like, I would want to see this pushed as far as like making it, you know, essentially Gilmore Girls meets 30 Days of Night.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing.
Especially with that 30 Days of Night, it's like that contained feeling, like we got to be here, nobody gets out, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And Lauren, let me just ask real quick, on that note of the bloodshed, how do you feel like ratings wise, tone wise, this would be?
Probably PG-13. Like, it wouldn't be like, there'd be like a little bit of cursing, but not so much. And like, if there's violence, it's kind of more cartoony. It's not like full on gore. So like, that's why I thought of Knives Out being like the comp, because like it's a little bit more adult, but still kind of silly. And that's kind of where I want to land, where it's kind of that.
You gotta have a couple of memorable comic relief characters and moments.
Yeah.
Like Chris Evans? Was it Chris Evans?
Yeah.
He was amazing.
Yeah.
Whatever the question was, yes, the answer is Chris Evans.
Exactly. What do you want for lunch?
Any other questions or studio comments for Lauren? Is that all? All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to Dan Thron then and see what he's got for us.
First of all, it's super scary to go last after amazing stuff. so thank you for the terror. But like I was already frightened going into this because I know certainly Sean knows more about vampire lore, vampire books and vampire movies than anybody I've ever known. And I'm a gigantic, like, deep film nerd. So my pitches generally get a little bit wonky and obscure. So pardon me for this.
Oh, go. do it, brother, do it.
But because going to this group, I didn't know whether or not, like, who Sean would be drawing from in terms of you know, the depth of film knowledge, et cetera, et cetera. Like, as soon as he said Margot Robbie, like a light went off to me. It was like this very, very singular, obvious choice to make a movie out of. So I came up with two pitches. One is a backup just in case someone else came up with the first. So, I'm going to keep them, if I can do both of them, I'm going to keep them both very short. They're very super high concept with not a lot of stuff.
Okay.
The first is both these movie ideas are essentially continuations of franchises that she's already built. Or making them into franchises in one case, but she's already connected to both these things. The first film is like I said, I'm a big old school movie nerd, and so when I saw her as Sharon Tate in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like it's one of the most heroic and beautiful performances I've seen in the past 20 years. I thought she was like, it blew my mind, and she was incredible. And when you said Margot Robbie vampires, the first thing that came to my mind is a movie that I very much love, but is very strange, funny, and completely obscure, is The Fearless Vampire Killers, starring Sharon Tate.
Oh my God! I did not even draw that connection. Okay, yeah. Roman Polanski.
Roman Polanski
in his younger days.
This is his sort of. He had made a lot of sort of art films. He's a Polish director and made a lot of art films, black and white, Knife in the Water, stuff like this. And this was
before he was not able to come back to America because he did some very
before he
things,
became a quite villainous, strange person.
Right.
But he's a very complicated character, to say the least. But it's certainly safe for people to go into the pitch that I'm about to say as Roman Polanski as a villain. This will map out to what you already believe about Roman Polanski. The Fearless Vampire Killers is a comedy, but it's a tragic, weird, strangely paced riff on sort of the Hammer horror style. So it's a very stagey, strange movie that is funny, but it's better as it goes along because it's very, very creepy. It gets creepier and creepier. So my pitch is that this is a sequel to two movies. One movie is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She would be continuing. It's a prequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Because this starts before she meets Roman Polanski. She met Roman Polanski when she was cast for Fearless Vampire Killers. The other movie to which this is a sequel, and to be even more obscure, is Willem Dafoe in Shadow of the Vampire. Has anyone seen this thing? Shadow of the Vampire, highly recommend.
Yes.
Shadow of the Vampire is a movie about the making of Nosferatu, in which the guy who plays the vampire is actually a vampire. And they're making the movie, and people are getting killed. And they're trying to make the movie anyway.
Before they run out of crew.
Before they run out of crew. So Sharon Tate got cast in Fearless Vampire Killers. She had a strange meeting with Polanski to begin with. Like, he's already a sort of a weird character in her life. But he convinces her to come to this small town in the Alps to shoot this very weird vampire movie in which she becomes a vampire. Right. When she gets there, the movie, it's all about the making of this and her experience of getting into film. And you're watching this Hollywood crew trying to build out weird castles in the Alps and working with the small town and all this stuff. And the small town people are like, there are really vampires and you should all be scared. And it's like, yeah, whatever. But one of the set piece moments of the movie in the original movie is this reveal of 30 coffins that the vampire has been collecting souls all around the town for this big sort of masquerade. And so I'm mapping that onto more and more and more members of the cast and crew are clearly being turned into vampires all around Sharon Tate. And she starts to be like, I believe that this is actually happening. And I believe that the guy who plays the lead vampire, Count Kroloff or whatever it is, like, he's a weirdo, and I think he's an actual vampire, right? And so she works with, like, while they're trying to shoot the movie, she's also trying to find a way to kill the lead actor, the lead villain. Polanski doesn't believe any of this stuff, and he just needs to get his movie made. But more and more, she starts to see those prop coffins getting, like, she's like, I saw a grip in the coffin. Yeah. Like, it's really happening. And of course, finally, she gets the guy who's one of the heroes of the movie to help her kill the lead who she thinks is the lead vampire, right? And it seems like an accident. It's all covered up. And Polanski's like, wow, well, that was sad that happened. And then they start driving away from the set on their last day, and she sees this look between Polanski and everybody in the crew, and Polanski is actually the lead vampire, and he gets her in the end, and that's why they get married and move to America.
Wow.
So it's
Wow.
it's an insidious, like, it's basically exactly the plot of The Fearless Vampire Killers, only mapped onto the actually creepy Roman Polanski and the very
Right.
tragic life of Sharon Tate. So you have so you shift from like this
It's like-
complete facade filmmaking stuff to like more and more deeper character revelations. Yeah, that like the difference between these things gets more and more stark. So it remains a comedy, but the feelings get sadder and weirder until you have a tragic ending. So obviously
And
that's not going to make any money, but that's
I
number one.
I don't remember if you mentioned or not, but Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski were married in real
Yes.
life.
Yeah, they got married after this movie. This is where they fell for each other, and I think that like you can like there's so many sort of movie making gags to pull with this, especially setting it in a place that is 100% not Hollywood. Like you're pulling out of like what looks to be like a cheesy castle set to reveal crew and blah 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 blah, and you pull back farther and you're like, wait, we're back in an actual castle. Like, so it's this Inception kind of quality to it. But it ends up being like it having sort of a weird and frightening and tragic last 20 minutes. So it ends up people leaving the movie theater being kind of spooked out. So that's pitch number one. And I'll move quickly into pitch number two. This is even more obscure and abstract, but this is a Harley Quinn story. That would be a one-shot story that is animated like Spider-Verse, and you'll see why in a second. Is that in this I want to take Harley Quinn and map her story onto the real life story again of someone you may never heard of named Valerie Solanas. And who is in 1960s, she was a radical feminist, and who like she started out very like making strong arguments and have very powerful personality, but like things got harder and stranger for her until she literally ended up in an insane asylum. I'll tell you why. And so we frame the story as Harley Quinn in Arkham Asylum telling you the story of how she ended up in Arkham Asylum, right? And this is because one, it's a story of her and Joker and the collapse of their relationship as she realizes that he is a terrible and controlling person that's wrecked her life, and she's trying to dismantle all of this. The Joker in this version is played up to be like stylistically and looks wise. Joker has become sort of an artist and has gotten into art and filmmaking and weird art films and stuff like this. And this is his new version of himself, where he's going to ingratiate himself to Gotham, right? And stylistically, he is presented exactly like Andy Warhol. So he looks like it's like green-haired Andy Warhol, right? And the style of the filmmaking of the movie you're watching is like Spider-Verse meets Andy Warhol prints and silk screening, right? That he is been making this movie, like this weird little art film, that because like in his like he's fighting Batman and he's been filming this like with his little Philips Super 8 camera while the fight's been going on, and he is like there's something deeper about what's happening with Batman, right? And he wants to put together this movie that puts all this evidence together. And this movie is called Batman Dracula. And this is an actual movie that the real Andy Warhol made. Batman Dracula is from 1968, and you can only get about 30 minutes of it online, and it's completely bizarre and image-packed and utterly wild. But this is like the Joker Warhol version in this is like, he's like, this is how I'm going to defeat Batman, is I'm going to reveal that the Waynes are actually it's a vampire clan. Like that's why he operates only at night. This is why this is happening, and I'm going to win him back. I'm going to win my position back in Gotham, and I'm going to ruin ruin Batman this way. Because, like, yes, you have, you know, Bruce Wayne showing up at all these, you know, midnight, you know, parties with champagne, but that's just a face that he puts on when secretly there's something horrible happening. And so he's filming all this, and he's bringing Harley more and more into it, right? And she's like, the more she learns about Batman, the more she's like, Batman has the same fucked up relationship with the Joker that I do. Like, this is like a codependent mess. You know, like it's the only man that she has ever felt any sympathy for at all is this poor tragic idiot who's wrapped up with this controlling misogynist asshole of the Joker. Pardon my swearing, but deserves it. And so she's more like, she's going and doing, like, filming stuff that the Joker is asking her to film, but you can see her character is changing as this is happening, and she starts being like, Joker needs to be stopped, right? This is getting terrible, right? And he finally sends her, like, you need to go to Wayne Manor, right? And get in there. You can get in there in ways that I can't get in there, and film the evidence that I need, right? And she does, and she goes there, and this is where Wayne Manor is Dracula's castle, right? And she's completely wrapped up in, like, that entire story now, and she's terrified. And she does end up in a terrifying fight against the lead vampire of Wayne Manor, just as Joker wants her to be, because Joker is filming her and expects her to be killed as the finale for his great art piece that he's going to reveal in Batman Dracula, right? But what she discovers is that Batman isn't the vampire that runs the whole show. Batman is simply a ghoul for Alfred. And Alfred is running everything. Alfred is the patriarchy that's actually controlling everything that's happening in Gotham. And so Batman is this incredibly, like, ruined, tragic character who has no will of his own anymore, and it just does whatever Alfred says. And that's the breaking point for Harley, where she's like, now I can see from the outside that he is in the same position. He has revealed that I am in this position, you know, and I have to break free of this. But of course, the moment she realizes it is when she sees Joker filming her being attacked by Dracula Alfred. And she ends up being in, like, massive fight with Dracula Alfred. The relationship that she's built up, like, meaning friendship she's built up with Batman. Batman has to make a choice. Battles against Alfred. She destroys Alfred. Like, she kills Alfred and puts a stake through his heart, but not before she herself is bitten and becomes the new Lord of Wayne Manor. And Batman is her sidekick, right? And she decides to go after the Joker and kill him. And this maps to what really happened for Valerie Solanas, who is famous in the movie in which she is played by Lily Taylor, wonderful little indie movie from the 90s called I Shot Andy Warhol. The woman became obsessed with Andy Warhol, you know, like screwing her over and not paying her for work that she had done, all this stuff. And she went in to try to murder him, and she did shoot him, like, and she almost killed this art, like, with other, you know, sort of ghoulish friends of his and all this other stuff. But she was stopped just in time, you know. And so Harley Quinn in this story, the story is, I bit Andy Warhol. And she's telling this all from the insane asylum at Arkham, and establishing the new, like, the last thing you see is Batman breaking her out of Arkham Asylum because she's the new ruler of Wayne Manor. She's the new semi-good guy of Gotham, and Batman is essentially her right-hand force that deals with everything. There you go. Those are my two pitches.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
I want this as a DC comic. I feel like there's so many people who would be just like, what is happening?
Well, that's why
worlds ever.
That's why I think the style of Spider-Verse would work perfectly for that, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if sorry, were you gonna say something?
Oh, please.
Oh, I was just gonna say I love the comic series on HBO, the Harley Quinn animated series.
Yeah.
And there was literally one episode where he like has a TV screen, must have put his TV screen like on the tallest tower. And like I could totally see the Joker just kind of having this like weird, like cynical feeling about movies.
Yeah.
He's like, it's what the kids want. It's what the kids want. I don't know.
Exactly.
It's like I don't know if you're going for that, but
no, that's exactly right. I mean, because like Warhol himself was very like he was a very like he manipulated his image to control how people priced his art. You know, and I love Warhol's art, but like he was essentially a media guy. You know, he was a great promoter of his own work and created that kind of style. And so he would in fact look at it exactly the way that the Joker you're talking about.
He was ahead of his time in terms of making himself a brand that was managed. You know,
exactly. And I think that's right on the money. And like it also sort of like hooks up with the way in which power like that is projected. Like it's like, you know, the people that are in control of doing bad things in the world don't care about what they're making you angry about. Like they're just like, I just want to make people angry and start the fights. And I think that that's a good point of view for Joker to have. Like he's just like, I will make Gotham destroy itself via my artistic control of it, and mapping that story onto their lives, because that's what I've done with Harley Quinn. So it's going to work for everybody.
I like how both I actually liked, even though you're like the first one you were like it won't make money, I was like it could totally be like this like obscure Sundance film, like it could totally like see it like that. And then with the animated one I could see it like what Tiffany was saying, like in a comic book and then it's adapted into a series. Like it feels almost like a series to me, but that could just, I mean, either one.
Well, I actually had the same feeling after I worked on the second one. Like I pitched it to my partner, and she was like, "You really just should draw that and put that out for free." I was like, "That's I'll put that on my list."
I want to see both of them. You know, your first pitch. I don't know if that had a title or not, but okay.
I couldn't. I actually wanted to hit on that. Thank you for bringing it up. Like, what I really want to do, the last thing I was trying to pull together, but I couldn't think of a good gag for it. This Roman Polanski directed Rosemary's Baby. In Rosemary's Baby, there's a great anagram joke where she has to figure out this guy's name by moving around Scrabble tiles, and. So there's a Roman Polanski angle to this about what I'm going to say is like, I would love to come up with a title that is an anagram, because not only of the Polanski connection, but because there's another great movie about vampires making movies, and that's Irma Vep, which is an anagram.
Oh, Irma
vampire.
Yeah, that's a deep cut.
Yeah, and like in Irma Vep, they are making it's a crew, and there's a vampire overtone to it. They are remaking an old film called The Vampires. That's exactly what's happening in the reality of what I'm pitching.
I definitely want to see that movie. I mean, like for me, it's like I'm getting all the drugs of films I love. Like to me, it's like there's like an adaptation fix I'm getting. It's like that meta film about the film thing, you know. But also like a State and Maine fix.
And that's a good deep cut right there. A little man. Nice.
State of Maine and Transylvania.
Yeah, exactly.
and then a little bit of a Fright Night fix too, because you know what I mean. Like, we still got to get the alpha, right? You know. Right. And I'm loving, and actually I still get a little Lost Boys hit from your second pitch, because Alfred being the patriarch that you didn't see all the time, he was right in front of you.
Exactly. Plus that's a connection to the Gilmore Girls, because that's the grandpa.
Yes, that's the grandpa from Lost Boys, right?
Yep. Same actor.
All comes together.
It all comes together. Yeah.
I also especially liked your first pitch, because like I genuinely could not figure out what was like real.
Right.
Like eventually I was just like, wait, Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski were married, but like what part of this is real? Like, did they go to the end?
It did exactly happen. Exactly.
I know that you said that it wasn't real, but is it?
Is it?
Exactly.
Like it might be.
Well, it's almost that same feeling. Yeah. Oh, sorry, good.
I was just quoting, both are historical fiction. Anyway,
Yes,
continue.
Yes.
exactly.
Exactly.
A little bit of that feeling you get in, I don't know if you guys have seen Midnight in Paris.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
he's hanging out with Dali and you know,
Hemingway and all
Hemingway,
this stuff,
yeah,
right.
Scott Fitzgerald, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
you're like, wait, but I could maybe that.
Yeah. This happened, right? Tell me this happened.
Tell me that. I love that.
That's awesome, dude.
That's awesome. One of the things that I really dug about the first one is that, like, we have so few examples of an actor who comes back, who returns to a role in a movie that is not part of the same franchise as the first one.
Right.
And it's like the only example I can think of is Michael Sheen coming back to play Tony Blair in like 3 different movies.
Yeah.
And like, so it makes you feel like they're all this like one connected franchise, but they're not at all. And so like the idea of Margot Robbie returning to the Sharon Tate role,
it's all part of the Robbie
Sharon Tate, like that's super cool.
That's a good call. I think the only thing I could think of that was a similar thing was what's the actor's name? Nigel Thatch, who played Malcolm X in Selma, the film, who returned to a completely different The Godfather of Harlem series as Malcolm X.
That's awesome. That's great.
Oh yeah.
It's like the Selma
awesome.
universe continues back to Harlem.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very cool, and neither of those pitches disappoint, Dan. I was like,
oh, of course,
like, what obscure deep dive into Dan's love of cinema are we going to get here?
I expect no less of a Dan Thron pitch. That it's like you're going to have.
I get to do something that I don't actually have to take responsibility for. Put on the mining element, start digging. References, you got them.
Yes, we can count on you for a meal that you're going to have leftovers, and you're going to have leftovers tomorrow, and you're going to keep eating, and you're going to watch it the 5th time. You're like, I see what he did.
Yeah, exactly. I always feel like I learn so much when I listen to you pitch anything. It's always just like, I did not know anything about half of that.
Oh man. Well, I would say like definitely like Fearless Vampire Killers. I can't say people are gonna like it. It's a dated movie.
Super dated.
But there's a flavor to it that is unique, and especially if you like the Hammer horror material from the 60s and 70s, like it fits neatly into that slot. And it's very, very interesting. I love that.
It's on my list now. It's and I have to watch Shadow of the Vampire again.
Yeah. Dafoe in that is just outlandish.
Yes.
The only one, like, I was trying to figure out a way to fit in Werner Herzog's version of Nosferatu, which is like my favorite vampire movie of all time. But
I can't believe I never got to my Werner Herzog. All of this.
Like, how many things can we like?
Because like obviously you want Werner Herzog to play a vampire at some point with his voice.
Yes. Yeah, his voice was.
Yeah, that's exactly what
I was made to be a vampire voice. Yes.
Well, thank you, sir. That was super fun.
That was fantastic, and I've got a pitch as well. If you guys can stand
awesome.
another 5 minutes.
Yes.
Yep. It's I'm afraid it's light on the old movie references, but I'll still try to follow up Dan anyway. So this one is called Sapphire, and the pitch goes like this. We start off with a young woman who is an Instagram influencer. I'm tentatively calling her Emily Dujour is her handle for Instagram. And Emily gets invited to a not exactly a fire festival type event, but like an event for influencers in the Caribbean. And it's basically her and a bunch of other Instagram models, and they're having this awesome week of photography and great meals and free drinks and entertainment and all this sort of stuff. And on one particular day, of this outing, they go to this very small little island that's just sort of doesn't even have a name. It's out in the middle of the Caribbean somewhere. And they're doing this full photography shoot with all these photographers all across the beach. It's magic hour. It's absolutely gorgeous. And that's when a group of speedboats all pull up. And all of these guys with guns come jumping out. And it's basically this modern day sort of human trafficking piracy ring that just starts grabbing up everybody and tying them up and hauling them onto the boats. And Emily is the furthest away from it. She gets a moment of holy shit and takes off running into the overgrown sort of slightly more jungly part of the island. And there are a couple of guys who chase after her and, zip ties at the ready. And she's fighting her way through the underbrush. And she comes across this burial marker that's just like, 2 wooden posts in the form of a cross, which is like a little dangly, charm tied around it with a sapphire on it. And she pulls this out of the ground to defend herself with it because she doesn't have anything aside from her phone on her. And so she's like swinging this at the guys and they're kind of laughing at her and they're starting to overpower her. And they don't notice that the ground where she pulled the cross out of starts moving. And this creature crawls out of the earth, this, almost sort of bat-like vampire creature that then attacks these guys and just kills the shit out of them and sprays them across the jungle. And then, and Emily's just like holding this cross, just terrified. And the creature stands up and forms into the shape of Margot Robbie. And she looks down at Emily and says, "Who is currently the King of Spain?" And that's where we start the movie. And so I won't give you a huge plot description or anything like that, but I feel like this is it might be like a 4 to 6 episode streaming event kind of thing, where Margot Robbie is she is this vampire who has now been set free in the modern day, but she was at her prime. She was a pirate queen in the Caribbean during the 1600s, and she was known as Captain Sarah Sapphire, based on the fact that her crew attacked a Spanish treasure fleet heading back to Spain. And one of the big hauls that they got out of it was this huge chest full of sapphires that she and her crew just like wantonly adorned themselves with from that point on. So she was sort of this sort of terror of the high seas in the Caribbean until she found out where the hidden sapphire mine was. And then she and several of her crewmates went to go and start, taking all the rest of the sapphires they could get out of the mine. They find out that it's actually beneath this Mayan pyramid. And when they go inside, she's confronted by the Mayan god of the death bat, Camazotz.
Nice.
And he turns her into a vampire and gives her the instructions that she will not get her soul back until she brings him the heads of 67 Spanish lords of war. And so she goes out now as this vampire pirate and is attacking, the Spanish, collecting heads and bringing them back to this pyramid to Camazotz. But the tragic sort of ending that she meets is that her ship is sunk with all of her crew aboard. She manages to fly away in bat form, but she is chased by these Franciscan monks who chase her to this tiny little remote island. They drive this stake through her heart. They bury her, and that's where she's remained until poor Emily, dug her up. So what then commences at this point is it's sort of a modern day sort of adventure slash human trafficking, espionage, vampire kind of story where Emily, the two of them are working together, Emily and Captain Sarah, in order to find all of Emily's friends. who are all captured because they're all going to be sold as a lot in an auction that is maybe taking place at a Epstein kind of mansion somewhere on a Caribbean island. And so they have to get there beforehand in order to save all of them before they disappear into the global underworld. And at the same time, Sarah had only delivered 66 heads to Camazotz before she was staked and buried. So she's trying to find a 7th head, which is very hard to do in the modern day because there are not a lot of Spanish lords of war around anymore, especially operating in the Caribbean. So anyway, that's sort of where their two lines sort of cross. And so for Captain Sarah, she's learning about this whole new world that is centuries later from when she went to sleep. And so she's having to learn about, cell phones and computers and electricity and all of these other things, amongst the backdrops of like Nassau and Miami and, all these different places. But she is the type of personality that is very much, she's not Captain Jack Sparrow or anything, but she's definitely one of those very clever, sort of charming rogues who thinks with her fists and usually has the strategy to outsmart her enemies. So she's adapting very well. And the one thing that she does recognize is, well, they've got better boats now. So Emily, we're going to put together a new crew. And so that is sort of, with the specialists on their crew, is how they eventually break this ring of human traffickers and win in the end. And there's something about the place where her ship was sent, where Captain Sarah's ship, the Pale Lady, was sank in a blue hole, which is a sinkhole underwater. And there's something that she needs down there, but she can't go down and get it because the ghosts of her crew don't want her down there. And so there's certain supernatural elements that also go through that. But anyway, that is my pitch for Sapphire.
Nice.
Dude.
Nice.
Like, you, first of all, I was excited when you said speedboats. So the fact that anytime, like, past that point, I was like, what's happening? It's so exciting. This is like if you had come to me and said, like, hey, do you want some handmade vanilla ice cream? I'm like, yeah, that sounds really good. A little chocolate sauce. Oh yeah, absolutely chocolate sauce, and maybe some crumbled Oreos and cinnamon toast crunch, and we're deep frying it, and it's oh my God.
And you hit the lottery, by the way.
And you hit the lottery. Served on a tray full of money. Yeah, oh my God, dude. Yeah, that's the cherry on the sundae right there, brother.
I would have been fine with the ice cream, brother.
Yeah. That's it, man. I mean, like, when you said, first of all, and this is going to throw everything I've ever said into doubt. One of my favorite movies of the past 20 years is Miami Vice.
Oh, yes.
So the speedboats, well, I think I might have whooped when you said speedboats. I think my only thing is, like, I want the vampires on the speedboats at some point. That's the big selling point that needs to be tipped.
A vampire speedboat chase at some point.
That's the only request I have, is make those things connect.
I think that is self-evident to the premise. Like, at some point there will be vampires on those speedboats.
Yes. You had me at vampire putting a crew together because I just love putting crew together montages.
Vampirates?
Yes.
I'm on.
Yes, right?
100%.
Everything you like about Ocean's 11, but vampire pirate.
Yeah, I was thinking Ocean's 11, or like Michael Bay's 6 Underground, but with vampires.
But with vampires.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
With a Taken style rescue mission too.
Yeah.
Say again, Tiffany?
I'm not sure 6 Underground didn't have vampires.
I think it did.
I might have.
What is the tone like? Did you say, I'm gonna miss, like, movies or like shows that you have in mind where this would be similar in tone to?
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, you guys called it out pretty well. It has sort of a Taken meets kind of a little bit of Pirates of the Caribbean. But honestly, I was thinking about Miami Vice.
That's right. That's
Just
right,
a little bit with the speedboats there. I can't
Go
lie.
fast boats, if you please.
Yeah, exactly. So tone-wise, like I feel like it's definitely a it's a rescue, sort of wide swath adventure, modern day adventure across sort of, from the Yucatan Peninsula all the way up into Florida and across the Caribbean. But at the same time, the character of Sarah is such a fast talking, sort of funny badass that there's a lot of sort of comic relief in there at the same time, but also not shying away from, ripping human traffickers apart and, spraying them all over.
I think that's valid. I think that's
I think
a reasonable response.
That's completely reasonable. I mean, to me, it seems like there's a lot of comedy gold potentially in just the out of time, like whenever you throw somebody into the future and, who is the current king of Spain? I mean, immediately I'm chuckling,
Like that beats Michael Biehn saying, "What year?" into the Terminator.
Yes.
He should say, "Who's the current king of Spain?"
Yes. In my mind, I was already telling myself that the guy who runs the trafficking ring is Spanish, and he's also running arms deals. So he is technically a Spanish Lord of War, and his head qualifies.
Yeah,
I think that's a real good idea. Actually, that's a very good idea.
Right.
I was just gonna say, Sean, real quick, if you want to research influencer events, Revolve is a big one. That like Revolve will like take like Revolve clothing, I think is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they will like people will go on these literal trips to like vacation destinations and they'll wear Revolve clothing, I believe. And it's like an influencer trip. So they do exist.
Yeah.
So this is a real thing. I didn't just make this up.
This is real.
Yeah, and also Mexican, like South American bat death gods also exist. All
yes.
Well, guys, thank you very much for getting together and pitching your vampire movie and streaming show ideas. I would love to see Margot Robbie in any one of these any day. That was absolutely an embarrassment of riches. So well done, you guys. Before we get out of here, just let everybody know where they can find you online if they want to contact you. James?
Sure. Let's see. My Instagram, I guess, is Instagram and Twitter is Plaster of Paris, as if you were just putting an extra R in Plaster of Paris.
That's excellent. Excellent. Nice. Tiffany?
Instagram and Twitter at lightning_bug, but I got 2 G's at the end, so it's BUGG. But yeah, that's where to find me.
Excellent. Lauren?
You can go to my website. Wow, such a flex. It's WordPress. Everybody calm down. It's Lauren, A as in Apple, Zimmer.com. And I have a little contact thing that you can contact me there.
Excellent.
Awesome.
And Dan?
I'm a co-host on the podcast Martini Giant, which is a film podcast with 3 VFX guys that talk about. We don't talk about VFX exclusively, but we like have a weird connection to the movies we work on, and so you can hit me up there at Martini _Giant on Instagram and Martini Giant on Twitter. And I'm fairly responsive on Twitter because I don't sleep very much.
Okay. All right.
And your next one coming up is Invasion of the Body Snatchers in Beetlejuice.
That's right. Yes. That is.
I called it up.
There it is. I'm hopping from this channel to that channel.
Excellent.
Day.
Okay,
yes.
You're double booked today.
Double booked today. That's it. Very well worth it, though. This is incredible, and it was awesome to meet you guys. And James, it's amazing to see you again. Those
of course,
absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thank you so.
Guys, thank you all for coming to do this. We will wrap this out. Thank you, the audience, for joining us for this. If you would pitch something for Margot Robbie, we would love to hear it. There's a great place to do that. That's down in the comments. Otherwise, we will see you guys next time. Thank you, pitchers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to add in one additional little plug here at the end. Since we shot this episode, Dan has started a new segment on his YouTube channel, which he's calling Make a Thing. And I don't really know the best way to explain it, but it has a lot to do with Dan's approach to movie making and movie history, and just about what a revolution YouTube is right now for filmmakers and creators. And it's very inspiring to watch, and you get to see kind of some behind the scenes of sort of how he makes his stuff. And I've just really been enjoying it over the last couple weeks, so I wanted to recommend that here, and here's a link, and I'll put a link down below as well, so check out Make a Thing. If you thought this was a fun listen, we have other vampire pitches for other vampire projects on different episodes, so those are a lot of fun to listen to as well, so feel free to check those out. And if you happen to be a creator who is making your own vampire story or project, check out some of the resources that we have here on this channel, specifically under the title Your Vampire Project, where we go in depth into all sorts of different aspects of being a vampire and vampire stories and vampire tropes and all those sorts of things. And the next episode for Your Vampire Project is in 2 weeks, where we're going to be going over all of the different ways to make a new vampire. From transfer of blood to curses to rising from the dead on your own, all that is going to be covered in depth. So come back and join us then. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.